The Heart of Arizona from 1938 features William Boyd as Hopalong Cassidy, George Gabby Hayes as Windy, and Russell Hayden as Lucky. You know, I enjoyed this one. I enjoy all of these Hopalong Cassidy films. I didn't really understand what this had to do with the Heart of Arizona necessarily, but instead it just felt like a standard Hopalong Cassidy film set somewhere in the West with his group of friends. There's lots of shooting and, of course, cattle rustling. The film opens up with the arrival of a stagecoach that contains a prisoner. The sheriff is there and some cowboys, and they meet there at the stagecoach with Hopalong, Lucky, and Windy. And the captive is set free. And the captive was actually the character Belle Star, played here by Natalie Moorhead. And Hopalong tells the sheriff, look, she's done her time in jail, she should be set free. And I guess this was an actual historical character. I don't know my famous old outlaws of the Old West, but Belle Star, I guess, was a famous one. I did a little bit of research after I watched this film. So, you know, if you're curious as well, I put one of the links below in the comments. So, Hopalong sets her free, she goes off, meets up with her family again. Now, one of my favorite things about Hopalong Cassidy films is seeing Gabby Hayes. He's here as the character Windy, and he's early in the film given a handful of silly coins as a payment, and those coins will actually come into play a little bit later in the film. So for those of you who actually go out and watch the films that I talk about, which probably never happens, but anyhow, keep in mind those coins. That was an important plot point of this film. And you know, I love old Gabby Hayes. It's my life goal to one day be an old grizzled coot just like that. So anyhow, back at the ranch, Lucky and the character Twister, played by Leo McMahon, they fight over a girl. Hoppy shows up to break it up. And you can tell there's a little tension between those characters there. So later during a cattle drive, Lucky is almost shot by that sneaky Twister. But Jackie Star arrives in time to be spooked by some stock footage of a rattlesnake. I forgot to mention before, Jackie Star is the daughter of Belle Star. So she's sort of the romantic interest of Lucky here. Now she has twisted her ankle, so Lucky agrees to take her back home, but on the way they get trapped in some heavy rain. And it's around this time that we kind of get into the crime plot. The character Ringo, who is one of Belle's foremen, well, he starts bantering with Trimmer, the bad guy who owns the nearby ranch, for, you know, rustling some cattle. And I love the names in this film. You know, it's enough that you've got Lucky and Windy and so on, but now we've got Twister and Trimmer. So it's great stuff. So Twister, he gets back to the ranch and he gives an update to Hoppy, but Hoppy's kind of suspicious of this guy and lays down some smack, and then he entrusts a kid to guard him at gunpoint while he goes to talk to the sheriff. So Twister distracts the kid and runs off. Hoppy goes investigating, and when Twister is about to sneak and shoot Hoppy unaware, this is when Artie, the young kid here, shoots Twister dead. Yeah, nice shot, kid. So anyhow, using his detective skills to analyze dirt and hair samples, Hoppy is suspicious of the criminals that they might be using a mine, so he goes to investigate. And I gotta admit, I really wasn't following the story that close, but I still love watching these films, and it's really great to see Hopalong and Gabby, who were working together in their investigation. So they're trying to figure out who's behind the cattle rustling, which is a theme in most of these films, you know. And Lucky, meanwhile, he had been hanging out with the Stars at their ranch, but as he rides off, he is shot mistakenly by the sheriff, who thought he was a bad guy. But keep in mind, this is a Hopalong Cassidy film, and usually when someone is shot, they make a full recovery. In fact, there's lots of shooting in this one with, you know, people getting shot in the arm, and then they kind of brush it off and they go about their business again. And the best way I could describe it, it's kind of like, you know, when you play racquetball and like you get smacked in the arm with a racquetball. You know, it kind of hurts for a while, but then you rub it off and go about your business. That's usually what happens, unless it's a bad guy. And when they get shot, they're usually shot dead. So Lucky had been shot and fell off his horse. and he's getting his head bandaged up. And it's during this time that Gabby Hayes, as the character Windy, he tells this awesome story about his many injuries, like being scalped and shot with arrows and so on. He's just the greatest. I think he's the highlight of these films for me.
Why, say, I've been shot by arrows and bullets, froze by blizzards and toasted by patches. I've been tortured, carved, and scalped. Cheyenne Chief knocked all my teeth out in a hand-to-hand duel. See that? That happened at the Battle of Bull's Tail.
And then we also get to a scene where Belle Star is talking to Hoppy. And she's got a thing for him. But is true love meant to be? Well, Belle tells Hoppy and the sheriff that her foreman, Ringo, is gone. So, of course, they suspect he's the criminal. And there's a big final shootout. And I'll leave the ending for you to see. But surprisingly, this was a darker ending to a Hopalong Cassidy film that I'm used to seeing. And, just some quick closing thoughts. I thought this was a fine film. It's enjoyable. It's about an hour long. And I really like the scenery that they used for filming here. I'm never quite sure where these films are made. And the film was called The Heart of Arizona. But it still looks like it could have been pretty much anywhere, like, the Sierras or Central California. I don't know. I'm still learning. So if my 3 fans know, let me know in the comments. I've seen several films now with Hopalong Cassidy paired up with Windy and Lucky, and I really think that's the great formula. You got Windy as the goofy old guy, and then you got Lucky as kind of the brash young character who thinks he can do everything. I think it's a great formula, and I'm really looking forward to watching more of these films. And again, if you get a chance to watch The Heart of Arizona, watch it for that darker ending. It's a little bit surprising. It made for an interesting ending to an enjoyable Hopalong Cassidy film. It's one that's worth checking out.
Well, if I ain't a weak-minded, wobble-brained, simple Simon, whistled by a no-count ornery mule skinner. Oh,